Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Zero to Profits podcast. I'm Coach Mack, and if by now we haven't met yet, let me quickly share why I'm so passionate about today's topic: hiring the right talent to increase your cash flow by $100,000. You see, I didn't always have a team, right? I remember those early days. I worked 12, 14 hours a day, just trying to do everything myself. And I thought, why hire somebody when I can just hustle harder, right? But here's the truth that I discovered: that mindset was costing me, not just in money, but in time. It would cost me in sleep, and it also cost me peace of mind. So let me tell you something real quick. There were a few times in the past where I've lost some huge opportunities simply because I didn't have the right help. And when I realized that, that was my wake up call. That is when I finally hired my first team member. And it was at that point that everything changed for my business. I went from working in my business to working on my business. And guess what, y'all? Over the last few years, I've realized that when I brought on the right people, my revenue jumped up. And I mean, jumped up, all because I had the right people in the right seats. So if you're listening right now and you're stuck doing everything, I'm talking about emails, invoicing, marketing, even the bookkeeping, right? Let me tell you from experience, you don't grow a business alone. You grow it with a team. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. So some of the things I'm going to talk about, or some of the points I'm going to hit is, so the first one is, what is real talent? We're going to talk about that. We're going to also talk about how can the right person help you increase your cash flow by at least $100,000. In addition to that, we're going to talk about when is the right time to hire. And then we're going to cover what simple KPIs you can use to track to make sure that your hire is driving profit. And then we're going to even talk about a little bit of where do you find these people, right? Because they're not just everywhere. So we want to give you some specific places that you can go look. Plus, I'll share some of the biggest lessons I've learned over time so you can avoid my mistakes and hire for growth, not frustration. So if you're ready, let's go ahead and jump in. All right, so let's start with the basics, right? What is talent? Talent isn't just about skill, right? It's about having people who fit in with you. And if they're going to fit in with you, they have to be able to do it in three ways, right? So one, they have to be able to fit your vision. Two, they have to be able to align with your values. And then three, they have to be able to take ownership of their role. Now, you want to ask, right? How's that different from just hiring an employee? It's very, very simple. An employee is somebody who basically comes in, they clock in, they clock out. They really don't have any emotional ties to the job, right? They're just there for the money, right? But somebody who has talent, their main driver is, I'm here. Yes, I'm here for the money, but I'm also here to help the business grow. So they're coming in and they're looking for ways to help you add value to your business, right? So what I want you to do is I want you to think of talent as an investment and not an expense. So when you hire the right person, you're not just paying a salary, you're doing three things. You're buying back your time, you're gaining expertise, and then also you're increasing productivity because with that new person, you're now able to focus on more revenue generating tasks. So here's how you know if you have talent or you just have an employee. If you have talent, right? They are somebody who, one, they're able to solve problems without being told how to do it, right? They're able to think for themselves. They may not understand or even know what the problem or how to solve the problem immediately when it first comes, but they are smart enough and they have enough initiative to go out and figure out what those problems are and figure out how to come up to a solution, right? Or at least an idea. Now, the second thing they're able to do is they're able to add value beyond their job description. The third thing they're able to do is they're able to look for ways to help you hit your business goals. All right, so I'm gonna tell y'all about my friend Mike. Mike owns a landscaping business, and over the last 5 or so years, I mean, Mike has been grinding. He works 12-hour days, he answers every phone call. I mean, he does all his estimates, he manages his own crews. And I've even pulled up on him over the last couple of years where, I mean, he's even been out there himself, mowing all the lawns himself, right? Now, he is very, very proud of his work. But when it comes to his numbers, he is stuck. For over the last couple of years, he has never been able to get past 250,000 in sales. Now, the reason why this is so is because based on how he's set up, his profit margins are very, very thin. Now, in the summer months, he does very well from a cash flow standpoint, right? I mean, everybody in the city's been, kind of calling him, right? And he'll have, opportunities, jobs that he can work, and at the end of those months, he tend to have a pretty big overflow. But he can't really enjoy those profits because he has to save for the slower months, right? These like months like January, February, you know, November, December, cash flow's not coming in the way it's supposed to, right? Because he's not getting as many calls. Now, every time he has tried to grow, he's hit a wall because he is the business. Now, fast forward to last year, he hired a guy, and I'm going to call his name Jason, right? When he hired Jason, Jason had a little bit of a different mode about him, right? Jason showed early on that he wasn't just any crew member. On his first, like for instance, his first week, right? He noticed that customer kept asking for additional services, like trimming the bushes, laying some mulch, coming back and cleaning up the flower beds, and look, just little things like that, right? Things that doesn't seem like it's a whole lot, but hey, but for Mike, it was a whole lot because Mike was just way too busy. He couldn't get back to do all those things, right? So he had to kind of stick to one thing because his time was very, very limited. Now, pay attention. What Jason did was he saw an opportunity. He came up with an idea and he asked Mike, he said, hey, what if I can start upselling these extra services while we're already there on the job? And if they say yes, then what you have to do is, we'll charge them an upsell and then just pay me the 25% of the sale. Mike agreed to it. He said, you know what? Fine. As long as I don't have to do it, as long as I don't have to manage it, knock yourself out. Guess what happened, y'all? When Jason started doing those upsells, that first month, it brought in an extra $10,000. Y'all hear me? 10,000. And it didn't stop there. What Jason realized is, hey, I'm sitting on a gold mine here. Like, I'm making money, the company's making money, customers are happy. So guess what I'm going to do? Jason started training the rest of the crew to do the same thing. He says, hey, look, if you want to increase your bag, hey, go and upsell these services. You can make a little bit here. The company can make a little bit of money, and now it secures our jobs as well, right? So by the end of last year, right, those little extras that they did turned into $100,000 of extra revenue. So now, here's the thing about Jason. When Mike hired him, he wasn't the cheapest person, right? I mean, the rate that Jason asked for was quite substantial. But Mike realized when he hired Jason that he was the right hire, and that's the difference, right? So Jason had a few things that you really couldn't teach, right? He had initiative, he had problem solving skills, and he had a mindset for growth. That is what I mean about talent, right? Jason wasn't just an employee. He's not there just punching the clock and saying, hey, I'm off at 5 and don't talk to me on the weekends and type of thing, right? Jason was somebody who not only could just do the job, he was also somebody who grew his job. He went from an employee that was basically being trained and just here to cut, here to mow grass, to somebody who thought like an owner. And he helped Mike drive that business forward without even having to be told to. And Mike didn't have to hold his hand. Make sense? Now, Mike could have hired at least 5 people to just do the work, right? But he instead hired one person who had a little bit of a initiative about him, and he actually thought about the business. And that's what made the difference in this situation, right? That's the difference between that talent and that employee. So when I say talent, I'm saying talent is an investment. That's what I'm talking about, right? Now, hiring somebody like Jason, as a talent can add at least 6 figures to your bottom line. All right, so now let's talk about the real question. How does hiring the right talent help you increase your cash flow by $100,000? There's 4 immediate reasons why that helps, right? How talent can come in and help. So the first reason, they actually help you increase revenue. So we just talked about the story of Jason, right? Hiring Jason brought in, at least $10,000 in new business every month, right? That's $120,000 in a year. Even after paying Jason's salary, Mike was still up, right? So now, another thing they help you do, part 2 or number 2, is they help you save time. As a business owner, time is your most valuable asset, right? If you're stuck doing bookkeeping, social media, customer service, if you're doing all those things, you're losing money, right? Talent frees you up to focus on money making tasks. You need to be out there closing deals. You need to be out there building new offers, right? If you're not, if your time is not spent doing those things, you're wasting time and you're losing money. Third thing, what talent does is it helps you improve your customer experience. For instance, happy customers come back and they refer others, right? That the thing that people like to do is they like to work with those they know, like, and trust, right? If your team is often the first point of contact, you need to make sure you have the right people in place so they can directly increase repeat business and help you get more referrals, right? So that talent will help you bring customers back to your business. Now, fourth thing they do is they help you reduce costly mistakes. So instead of you trying to do your own books and taxes and you spending all this time trying to do this, like, oh, I got it, I'm gonna save money and do all this, right? You should be hiring a skilled accountant to help you save on thousands of taxes and penalties, right? And if your business is growing, what you also should be doing is you need to be hiring an operations manager to help you avoid delays, because the right talent is a cash flow multiplier. Okay, so I'm going to share with you guys a quick story about a client of mine who runs a t-shirt business. His name is Marcus. When Marcus started his business, he started it out of his garage, and he was printing shirts for like sports teams, AAU teams, churches, and events, right? And it had gotten to a point where everybody that hired him loved the way he did his work. He put a lot of passion into it. So much so that word had spread all around his area, right? And before long, he was drowning in orders, right? So here's the thing. Marcus was doing everything himself. I mean, the printing, the packaging, the delivery, even answering emails, right? So when orders came in or if customers had concern, if they had questions, I mean, he was everything to his own company. As he built this company up, he got the attention of this local factory in town, right? Or this huge company in town. One day they reached out and wanted to give Marcus a chance because they needed a rush order of 5,000 shirts for the company event, right? And this order was worth almost $25,000. The reason why they wanted to give Marcus a chance is because they needed somebody local that can get the shirts to him kind of fast, because they had a product release, and the new product that they had built and started to sell won some awards, and it was featured into like a major magazine in the industry that they were in, right? And what the owners wanted to do is they wanted to get shirts made for all the staff and all the factory workers, and they wanted to do this big celebration and kind of take pictures and then put it into the newspaper and maybe even get the news crews in and all this type of stuff, right? They wanted to make a whole day and a whole big deal out of it, right? The thing is, they usually order from a large vendor, but in this case, they needed somebody that was local, that can kind of get the orders to them fast. And it was one of those things where Marcus had been bugging these folks for years to try to get in, right? And they finally decided to give him a chance. But the only issue is, again, they needed somebody with a fast turnaround. And I'm talking about it was like a 5-day turnaround for what Marcus told me. So what happened was they sent them an email on that Monday. And they told them what they needed. They told them how many they needed. They needed it kind of fast. And the thing is, Marcus didn't even see the email, y'all. The reason why he didn't see the email was because that weekend and even coming into that Monday and that Tuesday, this dude was tied. He was tied down in all these different tasks, right? He had orders that he was trying to finalize and orders he had to ship. He had gotten a little bit behind because his inbox is overflowing and all of this, right? And he didn't have time to really just go in and kind of clear that stuff out over the weekend. So when Monday came and went, the company decided to go with somebody else. Marcus didn't get around to this email until Wednesday, and by the time he replied, he found out that, hey man, they had already chosen another vendor for this, so that $25,000 deal, is gone. He missed it, right? He missed the boat. So Marcus missed a big bag because all this time he was doing all these things, keeping himself busy, and the things he was doing, somebody else could have done. Like all that packaging and answering those emails, he could have hired somebody else to do that. That was his wake-up call. When he saw that he missed that $25,000 order, right? That was his wake-up call. So what Marcus ended up doing was he ended up hiring somebody in an operations assistant. He called him I called the lady an operations assistant, and her job was to basically handle emails and handle orders. He had her, and probably within the first month, he started to see a turnaround to where he was now free to work on sales and building relationships, right? So not long after he hired the lady, Marcus had gotten the process down and now he's ready, right? So he started to go back out to some of these bigger corporations and started to see, hey, look, give me a chance, I can actually fulfill your orders. And somebody gave him a chance. He ended up getting a $30,000 deal. He gave those folks an extremely fast turnaround. I mean, he worked all night to get it just so he could prove a point that he can handle it, right? And now that he gave them that extremely fast turnaround, they love the work that he did. So now, fast forward, he routinely gets large orders from this company every year. And on top of that, some of these other companies have also given him a chance as well. The crazy part about this is the money that he's making on those big orders literally pays the assistant salary for that entire month, right? So this is the lesson I want to make sure I drive home with you guys when it comes to talent. When you don't hire or you don't outsource, you really aren't saving money, right? You're not saving money. What you're doing is you're actually costing yourself opportunities. Look at Mike, look at Marcus, two different examples, right? Now, here's the big question I have for you. When is the right time to hire? Is it when you're overwhelmed? Or is it when you're losing deals? Or is it sooner, right? When you recognize that, hey, my company is growing. We're going to talk about it. Okay, so when is the right time to hire? A common mistake made by most small business owners, right, is sometimes we hire too early or we hire too late. So how do we know when is the right time? There are 3 signs. First one, if you find yourself doing tasks that are below your pay grade, it's time to hire, right? If you're spending hours on tasks that somebody could do for, $10 to $20 to $30 an hour, you're losing money. If your business is stalled, right? So for instance, if you can't take on more clients because you're at capacity, it's probably time to hire. Number 3, if you're missing opportunities, right? If you have leads you can't follow up on, or even ideas that you can't launch because you're too busy, it's probably time to hire. Now, here's the thing. You don't want to hire out of frustration or even desperation, because even in that point, you'll tend to hire the wrong person because you're rushing to just try to, you're rushing just to try to fill an order or maybe fill a potential opportunity. So when you do hire, the focus that you want to make sure you hire for is you want to hire for growth, right? So what that means is you want to create a role that directly impacts your bottom line. So for instance, if you're hiring somebody for sales or marketing or operations or customer service, we want to make sure that the person we hire is directly aligned and has the experience and the passion to do those things. We don't need anybody coming in to just punch a clock. We want to make sure that they're adding value to our organizations. Make sense? Okay, so to drive home my point when it talks about the value of having talent, like actual talent, so I'm gonna tell y'all about my client Celia, right? She owns a growing catering business. Now, Celia is known for her amazing dishes. She has a personal touch with her menus, and her food is really good. Now, she stays totally booked. She has weddings, she has corporate events, and she does like private parties, right? Now, previous years, behind the scenes with Celia, prior to her hiring staff or whatever, her business was in complete chaos. Celia back in the day was the chef. She was the scheduler. She was the customer service rep. She was the delivery driver. She was everything, right? I hope she doesn't get mad about me talking about her story and kind of telling you what happened, or at least what drove her to start hiring people. But a few years ago, she had this one Saturday, right, where she ended up being double booked. She had 2 big events all on the same day. She had a wedding, and then she had a corporate event that she had to cater, right? Both of them on the same day. Again, I just want to make sure I point that out. Both of them on the same day. So what was going on was Celia was fighting with she was rushing from like the kitchen where she was actually preparing her food to where she was constantly on the phone answering questions about, for one of the corporate clients. They kept asking questions that day. They kept calling her about certain things, kept adding on things, right? And that was something else that she had to kind of cut off. Then she had a food delivery that she was expecting to happen that morning that was running late, right? So she was stressed out. She was trying to cook. She was trying to prepare. And then again, this food delivery was running late, and you had clients calling, asking all these different questions. Celia ended up getting so overworked. She got the orders done, but she was so stressed out that where like a disaster happened. I mean, and I don't even know how this happened, but yo, she accidentally mixed up the orders. The corporate client was supposed to have box lunches, right? And the wedding, party was supposed to have like a cake and some fancy shrimp and amongst some other stuff, right? What happened was the corporate client ended up getting the fancy cake and the fancy shrimp and some finger foods. The wedding, those folks got box lunches. Man, the corporate clients, they were confused, but they wasn't. I mean, they wasn't really upset. They just like, okay, well, maybe she just kind of gave us extra because obviously we had been getting on the nerves. But the bride for their wedding party, oh, this lady was furious. I mean, when I tell you, she was very upset. Celia had to refund the entire $5,000 that she had earned back to that wedding couple. Plus, what she ended up having to do was she ended up comping the corporate client that she had to say, "Hey, look, when I'll cater your next event. I'll give you a pretty, substantial discount. I'm just trying to." She needed to save the relationship, right? So this mistake ended up costing her. Like we added it up, right? It cost her over $7,500. And on top of that, her reputation took a major hit because that wedding, these folks were extremely petty. They put it on social media and they talked about it. They ran this lady name in the mud, right? But here's the truth about all that. The mistake didn't happen because Celia was bad at her job. It literally happened because she was doing too many jobs. So to correct this, or at least to grow, Celia had to make some changes immediately, right? So one of the things she did was she hired a part-time operations manager to help her with the scheduling, to help her with deliveries, and then really just help her communicate with the clients on the days that she's actually performing the service. So the cost, I think that lady started out at like $800 a week, right? Not that big of a deal. But here's what happened immediately after she hired this lady. So with some managing, Celia was able to now go back to cooking and really just focus on building relationships with the clients she had. In addition to that, that social media mishap that happened that kind of put her out there, what Celia did was she was really smart. She put out an apology video. And while she did the apology video, she started to show off a couple of her new dishes, right? By doing that, she ended up booking, I want to say, about 2 or 3 different corporate clients. And I know those corporate clients were worth over 15,000, right? Now, because her operations are running more smoothly now, she's getting more referrals. She doesn't have those types of issues anymore because now she has an assistant that manages like, hey, these orders go here, these orders go here. All I need you to do, she even manages Celia's schedule that says, hey, look, you need to be in all these different places so she's not double booked anymore, right? So in just a few short months, the new hire, this lady that she hired basically paid for herself, and now she's even worth more, right? So here's the takeaway that I want to make sure that I tell you guys, right? The right time to hire ain't when you can't afford it or when you can afford it or even when you're burned out, right? The right time to hire is basically before your business loses money and before you become stretched too thin, right? What if Celia had a hire sooner? She would have avoided that $7,500 mistake and could have made an extra $15,000 faster, right? So let me ask you this. Are you losing money because you're holding on to tasks that somebody else needs to be doing? If that answer is yes, it's probably time to hire, right? And that leads me to my next piece: how to measure if your new hires are actually helping your business grow. So, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about these things called key process indicators or KPIs, right? These are things we need to track, right? Because we can have people come in and we can pay them, but if we're not tracking this stuff, it can lead to disaster. So, we're going to go into this in the next section. Okay, so I want to make an important point right here, right? We've talked about hiring, we've talked about talent, we've talked about how talent can help you increase your bottom line. We've talked about how, it can help you reduce your time, eliminate waste and things like this, right? But I want to make this important point. Hiring is just the first step. Tracking the performance is where the real results come in, right? So I always say this: what gets measured gets improved. So when it comes to talent and evaluating talent, Here are some simple KPIs or basically key performance indicators that you can use to track your team's productivity. There are three of them that I would say, three of them, right? So the first one, revenue impact, right? So if, for instance, if you hired a salesperson, what we want to do is we want to track the monthly sales and maybe even conversion rates, right? So a revenue metric that I like to use is what we call revenue per employee, right? Is the work they're doing increasing the income, right? Is it a direct correlation? And the formula that I like to use for that is basically taking the total monthly revenue and divided by the number of team members, right? If that number is increasing over the 30 to 90-day period, right, then you know that you have a efficient staff that's actually helping you increase your income. And the way we look at that is you just look at your profit and loss statement. This is okay. Let's look at the income over the 30 to like a 30 to 90-day period. If the revenue over the employees, if that number is increasing by month, then you know that, okay, look, your employees are helping you be more efficient. Now, number two, the other one that we like to look at is what we call customer satisfaction, right? So, for instance, if it's a service role, what we want to do is we want to measure reviews, look at repeat customers, and maybe assign what we call a net promoter score or NPS, right? The way we do that is we need to come up with a system to garner or get feedback, right? So, for instance, you could basically put out a survey, and maybe on your survey questions, you can ask client for feedback that says, "Hey, look, on a scale of 1 to 10, how satisfied were you?" As a owner, you're going to have to set a target that says, "Hey, look, we want to have an average score of maybe 8 or higher," right? If it's between the 5 and 7 range, you probably want to diagnose what those problems are. If it's 4 or lower, then you immediately need to go in and start to put corrective actions in there to figure out, okay, what is it that we were doing wrong, right? Now, we want to be able to track those things via like maybe an email or maybe some type of survey tool, but we want to get those responses quick, right? And again, we want to track those, just to kind of give you the range again, 8 or higher should be the target. Now, the third thing that we want to look at as far as a tracking metric is utilization. Are they working on revenue generating tasks? Utilization is a very, very rare metric that a lot of small business owners don't use, right? What it is you just take billable hours and then you divide it over the total hours worked. What you want to aim for is you want to aim for a 70 to 85% utilization rate for any work that your people are doing on customer facing or revenue facing like assignments, right? The way you track that is you look at your payroll costs, you look at the hours that they're spending, and then you say, okay, well, how much of these hours are billable? And then we just basically apply that formula. If you're less than 70% utilized, then what that's telling you is that your clients are working on more than 30% of their time is being spent on non-value added activities, right? If they're 85% utilized, then what that means is that 15% of their time is being worked on non-value activities or non-revenue producing activities. And to be honest, I mean, if you're trying to grow and scale, you want to be within that 70 to 85%, right? If you are higher than 85%, then typically you'll know, okay, now it's time to hire because we need to basically get our utilization down to a certain level to where our people can actually work on some non-revenue related activities that are actually crucial to the operations. So for instance, if let's talk about the catering business or the restaurant business, right? You do want to have some time out there where staff can actually work on continuing education. They can work on training. Maybe there's like food handler licenses or maybe some other trainings they have to take. You want to be able to put aside time for that. You don't necessarily want them working on 100% revenue generating activities because you want to make sure that you have time to actually train them, build them up to help them become better for your customers and for your clients. Make sense? Sounds good? All righty. So now here's a pro tip. You want to tie the KPIs to their incentives. So for instance, if you got a lot of employees that like to come to you and ask you, hey, look, so I've been working here for 6 months or I've been working here for a year, can I have an evaluation or can I have a raise? Well, a good way to tie that to the raise is if they're helping you increase your income, then tie the KPIs to that to where you can now justify whether they deserve a raise or they deserve some type of performance bonus or whatever the case may be, right? This is a good tip or a good way to do that. So when your team knows their performance metrics and how it connects to their rewards and the company's goals, more than likely what you should see is you should see your people motivated to drive results. All right, so you may be in business, and obviously we've been talking about hiring talent and bringing in new people and things like this. And you're probably like, Mac, man, all that stuff sounds good, man, but all the people I've been bringing in, man, they just been duds. Like they just ain't been working out. How do you find these rock stars that you keep talking about? Well, let me give you a couple places where you want to start. So the first one, where you want to start is you want to actually just start within your network, right? Ask for referrals from people that you trust. The best talent typically comes by word of mouth, right? My longest term employee that I've had with me now, she's been with me over 10 years now. She literally came from a referral from somebody in my network, right? And she happened to be a neighbor of somebody that I knew. And she's been with me now from 10 years. I mean, she started literally as somebody who did not have any knowledge of anything accounting or bookkeeping related or even tax related now. And now she's running a whole entire department like 10 years later, right? So your network is a really good place to start. Now, next place, I would say LinkedIn, right? Use LinkedIn. Use it. LinkedIn is a great place for professional roles, right? Especially like sales, marketing, or even management, right? Last year, I used LinkedIn to hire what I would think is one of the most amazing assistants I've ever gotten, right? This lady has started with me and she has been here now for about a year, and she's jumped in and she's been able to help me grow my business by literally allowing me to focus on revenue generating duties while she takes care of all my back end work, right? This podcast, these episodes would not be possible without my assistant because she literally has been my saving grace over the last year now. LinkedIn is a really good resource. Okay, we say, okay, well, Mac, okay, well, look, my network we don't know any people like this that could come in, or better yet, I don't even really know how to use LinkedIn. Okay, that's fine. Then try platforms like Upwork or Fiverr, right? Some people prefer Upwork, some people prefer Fiverr. That is a good way to get started, right? Where you can say, hey, well, look, maybe I don't need to hire anybody full time, but let's say if I want to hire somebody part time, but I don't want to risk hiring somebody who can turn out to be a dud. Well, these freelancer platforms, right? The reason why I tend to go there for like temporary help is because a lot of these people, they're vested in trying to do a good job because they want to turn these roles from part-time into full-time roles, right? And in addition to that, they're evaluated and rated on their performance. So using a platform like Upwork, using a platform like Fiverr, you can actually get some people that are a little bit better than just kind of the normal people. These people actually have skills. And I think even on like Upwork, right, to even be on Upwork, I think they have to like verify your experience and that type of thing. So you're dealing with people that are a little bit more of an upper echelon type of person, right? So now let's say you've done all of that, and let's say maybe it still hasn't worked out for you. Well, then one of the things you can also do is you can maybe say, hey, look, let's look at some of our industry groups, right? Maybe join some of the local business associations, or maybe look at online communities where professionals in your industry hang out, right? They may know people that may be looking for an opportunity that they can't actually handle, right? Maybe they say, hey, look, I have somebody here that could actually fit for you, but I can't personally hire them, but maybe they'd be a good fit for you, right? I do that all the time. I refer people to other professions all the time. If I can't hire them, if they're not a good fit for my business, maybe they'd be a good fit for somebody else's, right? So I tend to do referrals all the time, and we use industry groups to do that. Last but not least, right? Number 5, social media. It's crazy, that I'm mentioning this, but yeah, why not? Post an opportunity on your business page, right? You already need to be advertising your business anyway, so why not, get your business out there, letting them know that, hey, we're hiring, we need people, right? You never know who's in the audience. You never know who's actually paying attention. Strangest thing, another employee came to me because he followed us on social media, but then I end up meeting them in person. So social media is a way for people to connect. I mean, so why not? Why not put yourself and advertise yourself out there, right? So now, when you're interviewing, there's three things you want to make sure you look at, right? When you interview someone. So the first thing you want to do is you want to look at to see, okay, are they a good fit for you, right? Do they align with your values? Do they align with your vision? I can tell you right now. Previously, I had a few employees I've had to let go over the last 2 years. Right when I had to kind of draw a line in the sand and realize that, hey, look, my culture, the vision, the mission that I'm trying to hit. Some of the people that I had in my organization did not. They did not fit that, or they did not fit that mantra at all. Like they totally were rebellious with where I was trying to go, and I had to draw a line in the sand and says, hey, look, if my business wants to grow, I need to make sure that I have people here that actually fit and they align with those visions and those values and those missions. If they don't, they got to go. Right. So now, next thing, another thing that I end up getting rid of some people about is because they didn't have a results oriented mindset. Right. I want to make sure that if people coming into my firm, right, and they're working for me and we're helping to grow and helping to serve and impact people on a positive level, we want to make sure that everybody that works, that works with us has a results oriented mindset. And you should too, right? If you're a small business owner and you want to have people come in because when you're not around, they're representing you. Right. And I had to realize that as a small business owner that says, hey, look, if I'm not around and these people are dealing with my customers, whatever message that I've been communicating behind closed doors should be the same message that my people are communicating to my customers, right? So results oriented mindset is something that's very, very important, right? You want to find out how they've delivered that value or those results in past roles. Maybe it's something where they've helped customers and maybe they help other businesses increase sales. Maybe they've helped reduce costs. Whatever that case may be, you want to find out what success that they've shown in previous roles. Now, most important thing, or maybe third of the most important things, right? Do they have problem solving skills? You would not believe what I have learned over the last years by hiring people, right? It's all like when they're an employee, they don't want to think, right? It's like, hey, look, I'm here punching the clock. I'm expecting you to give me everything, and then I just work, and then at 5 o'clock I go home. Well, when you're dealing with a small business, or even really any business, right? Even if it's a corporation, right? Most people, if you tend to want to move up in a corporation, you have to make sure that you have some type of problem solving skills. Where, hey, I'm gonna make you look good. I'm gonna make this company look good. I want to make my manager or my supervisor or whoever the case may be, I want them to look better in front of others than behind closed doors, right? So a lot of ways you can do that is making sure you have people that can actually solve problems. Maybe they don't necessarily have to have the exact answer, but when they come to you, they should be able to have some type of recommended solution that says, hey, look, here's the problem. We thought about it as a team. These are things that we recommend that you take. Now, as a business owner, the decision is yours, but it will be a whole lot helpful if you know that your staff can operate without you being there and they can actually solve problems, right? So when you do interviews, you want to make sure you give them a couple scenarios to see, hey, look, here's some problems. How would you solve these problems? Understand what their thought process is, right? If they're coming in asking questions about, hey, well, how much this job pays and what time do I get off and do y'all offer vacation, do y'all offer benefits? If all their questions and all their responses are more about them and what they can get out of the job, and they're not necessarily talking about what they can provide to you, then that should be an automatic red flag that, hey, they may not necessarily be the people that you need to have in your business. Okay, so real quick, I'm almost done. Let's just kind of talk about the takeaways here, right? So we talked about talent. Talent is basically people that help us drive our business forward. They're not employees. They're not here to punch a clock. They're not here to go home at 5. They're not here to say, hey, don't call me after 5. None of that type of stuff, right? These are people who really want to, they're vested in helping your business drive forward. Now, how does talent help you increase your cash flow, right? What talent does is they help you make more money, they help you save time, and they help you reduce costs and mistakes, right? These people are problem solvers. When they come in, they're giving you ideas off the rip, right? That says, hey, look, I'm looking at this and I have some ideas as to how we can do this better. That's when you know you have talent on your team, right? When should you hire, right? You should hire before you find yourself doing low value tasks or before you find your growth stalling. So you need to make sure that you have bookkeeping. You need to make sure that you evaluate your financials. And if you see your financials are constantly increasing and you all of a sudden you notice that, hey, look, we're starting to have a couple slow months, it's probably time to hire so that way you can get out there and start to increase your sales. Now, how do we track that? We track that by using KPIs, or what we call key performance indicators, right? So looking at revenue, looking at customer satisfaction, but last but not least, there's this one term, utilization, right? I introduced it here today. Utilization, understanding what utilization is, and if your utilization is over 80 to 85%, that's a good signal to let you know, hey, it's time to hire and bring in people, bring in talent, not employees, but bring in talent to help you push your business forward, right? Now, where do we find this talent? Again, we talked about looking in your network. We talked about looking at LinkedIn. We also talked about looking at some of the freelancer platforms that are out there, just in case you just kind of want to get started and have some temporary help. Those are good places, right? And then last but not least, you can actually just go on social media and just put the request out and let's see what the market brings back, right? Now, I want you to remember, hiring the right person is an investment, not an expense, right? If you do it right, that talent that comes in can help you increase your business by more than 100,000. Definitely help you increase your cash flow by 100,000, right? Because if they're coming in, they're helping you solve problems. They're helping taking a load off of you and helping push that business to a place where you can actually take yourself out of it and that business can grow. Now you have something special to where you can literally scale this thing to the next level. Sounds good? All righty. Well, that's it. That is all I have for today. So if you are enjoying the Zero to Profits podcast and you found value in today's episode, what I need you to do, and I please need your help with this, right? I need you to like, I need you to subscribe, and I also need you to hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our content. Also, I want to hear about some of the topics that matter to you guys most, right? So if you're a business owner and you've been chiming in and you've been listening to these episodes, please leave a comment. Hey, tell me, hey, Mac, hey, can you talk about this subject? Can you talk about this subject? I'm struggling with this. I will definitely, come in and the feedback that you leave me will help me shape future episodes, right? So let me know what you want to hear about next. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Zero to Profits podcast. Let's keep growing and scaling together. Until then, it's coming.